Hey folks, welcome. So this video is just a short explanation of the rhetorical analysis essay assignment. And so on Blackboard, you're going to find all kinds of things. You'll find the assignment description I'm about to show you. Um, you'll find the essays you need to find. You're going to choose one and read it and analyze it, um, and other resources. But first, I just wanted to try to simplify this as much as I can, because sometimes students find this a little bit uh, confusing, challenging. But basically, with this assignment, um, you're going to answer these three questions about an article. And so, which article are you going to choose? I'm going to give you a selection of articles you can choose from. You're only going to choose one article, but you're going to choose one article out of the ones I give you, and you're going to read it really carefully, like a few times. And then after you've read it carefully a few times, you're going to analyze it, and you're going to analyze how the argument in the article works, basically. And that's basically what you're doing. And so you can think of it as, you're writing an essay about an article, and you're going to answer these three questions. The first one is, what is the argument? What is the author's thesis, and how do they back it up? And so that might seem pretty simple, um, but I'm giving you articles that are pretty complex. So just that part might be a little bit challenging. Some students find it to be somewhat challenging, but it's really, really important that you just comprehend the article you're writing about, and that's kind of your first task, is to totally comprehend the article you're writing about. So you're going to want to read it at least a few times so you really, really know it. And if you think you're having difficulty understanding the article you choose, you got to get in touch with me. You really have to get in touch with me. Stop by office hours, make an appointment with me. But I can help you figure it out. I mean, if you don't get in touch with me and you're having trouble figuring it out, then that's really not going to be good. It's not going to lead to a good result. So if you have trouble understanding the article you chose, get in touch with me. Okay, so after you just identify kind of what the argument is, then you want to start to analyze it. And so when you analyze it, you're going to look at the different parts, and you're going to use some of these rhetorical terms that we've been covering in class. Ethos, the credibility of the author. How do they establish their credibility? Pathos, the emotional appeal. How do they appeal to the audience? Namely, the beliefs and feelings of the audience. How do they use relatable, concrete examples to appeal to the human side of the issue? That's pathos. And then logos is just the argument itself, that basically the evidence they bring up. So what facts do they have to support their argument? How do you know these facts are credible? And so that's the logos. And then one really important one, the counter argument. And counter argument is, how do they identify people who disagree with them, and then explain to those people why they should change their minds, basically. Um, that's a real tricky one, but a very important one too. Okay, so you've read the argument, you've understood it, and then you've broken it into parts and you've analyzed how it works. And then finally, you kind of come to an evaluation about it. So is it effective? Is it not effective? And that's kind of up to you. Do you think it's effective? Do you think it's ineffective? Um, and then explain why you think it's effective or why you think it's not effective. Okay. So that's kind of my simpler version. I'm going to jump over to our Blackboard page and take a look at some things. So we go to weekly modules, week 2, the rhetorical analysis assignment. And here's the whole write-up. I'm not going to just read this to you. I kind of gave you the Cliff Notes version. But analytic writing, most college papers are going to ask you to do some form of analytic writing. So that's why we're doing it. And so, like I said, you're going to have a selection of articles you can choose from. You'll choose one. These articles will be on there. I might change this. I might add some more options for you. Um, but you're going to choose one. You're going to read it a few times, know it backwards and forwards, and then you're going to analyze it. And it's highlighted here, so I'll say this one out loud. Your thesis statement should not simply repeat the thesis of the article you choose, but explain why that article is or is not persuasive according to your analysis. So your thesis is not just repeating what they said. Your thesis is evaluating, okay, how effective their argument is. So your thesis should begin with something like um, Michelle Alexander's argument in the New Jim Crow is extremely persuasive because, and then you would fill in the rest with whatever your because is, something like that. So it's not simply a summary, it's more than a summary, it's an analysis. That's one misconception I often get. Another misconception I often get is it's not your opinion about it. So it's your evaluation of how effective it is, but it's not your opinion about the issue. And so if you can't help yourself from telling me your opinion, like tell me in the conclusion, in the last paragraph, the rest of the essay, it should not be any of your opinion on the issue. It should be just a kind of objective analysis of how the author makes their argument in the article you've read. So I hope that makes clear because it's super important that you uh, understand that it's not those two things. It's not a summary. It's not uh, your opinion. It's an analysis of how the argument works. And so, what will I grade you on? There's a whole rubric. I won't read it to you. You can read it at your leisure. But just to bullet point some of the things I'm looking for when I'm grading. Obviously, the quality of the writing. Did you go through the writing process? Did you give me a polished final draft? Um, that it meets the minimum word requirement, which is, I should say this, minimum word requirement 1250 words, which is 4 pages double spaced. You should put it in MLA format, have a works cited page, and in-text citations. It's only writing about one source, so that shouldn't be too terribly difficult. It's good practice. Okay, so what am I grading you on? Formulate a clear thesis that explains whether the argument is persuasive or not and why. You should also briefly summarize their argument. And so when it comes back to the what is their argument, you should have like one paragraph that does briefly kind of summarize the whole thing. Um, and so imagine you're writing to an audience that hasn't read the article. And so pretty much like your first body paragraph will need to be a concise but accurate summary of the whole thing. And then after that, you're going to get into your analysis. And this is kind of going to be up to you. Um, I'd like you to touch on all these things. And so professional arguments, they all include all these things. Some of them can be harder to find in some articles than others, but they'll all be there. And so the easy one is logos. They're all going to have a clear thesis with evidence to back it up. Um, um, in one way or another, they're all going to establish their credibility. In one way or another, they're all going to appeal to the emotions and values or beliefs of the audience. Um, they're going to use some kind of concrete examples to speak to the human side of the issue. Um, so that should be there. There's going to be some kind of counter argument in all of them, and so that can be tricky to find out. How do they identify and respond to opposing views? And then the implications of the argument. Why should the reader care? And so this could be kind of obvious if they're pointing out an issue that's clearly causing something unfair or immoral to happen. Then that's it. It's just the reader should care because this terribly immoral thing is happening, and nobody likes terribly immoral things to happen, right? Or this terribly unjust thing to happen. Nobody likes terribly unjust things to happen. The reader should care because people are suffering, and and people obviously don't want other people to suffer. So this kind of thing. And finally, explain your judgment of the article. So, was it effective? Was it not effective? Why did you think so? Um, did the author engage the reader um, by convincing you um, to care about the issue? Did you care about the issue? Um, did you see things their way at the end? Why or why not? So I hope that makes sense. Please let me know if you have questions. I'm going to jump back over to Blackboard and I'll just show you the folder where these articles can be found. And you're going to have to choose one of these articles. I hope this works still. Yeah, there we go. You're going to have to choose one of these. And so you can't choose Mike Rose. You can't choose any of the other essays we've read in the class. I want you to kind of choose one we haven't done together and do it kind of independently. Um, so I think that's it. Please let me know if you have questions. I'll obviously be happy to answer them.